Sophie, till late in the third quarter, you guys were struggling offensively in that frame. Second half in general didn't feel the same as the first half on that end. Did something change for you guys? What did you see as kind of leading to stalling on that end?
Yeah, I think we were just kind of slow. And every time that we're slow, especially defensively, it just somehow affects our offense.
Sophie Cunningham didn't hold back after this one, and understandably so. The Indiana Fever let a crucial game slip away, falling 88-84 to a struggling Mystics squad anchored near the bottom of the standings. Despite holding a double-digit lead and entering halftime in control, Indiana collapsed in the second half, allowing Washington to go on a game-changing 22-7 run. With playoff positioning at stake, the loss dropped the Fever to 7th place. Cunningham's post-game remarks were fiery, and we'll break down exactly what she said and why her criticism hits harder when contrasted with head coach Stephanie White's post-game comments. But first, what do you think went wrong for the Fever? Should Stephanie White shoulder the blame? Sound off.
Above her head is Cunningham with a steal. Cunningham feeds Sims, who goes coast to coast and lays it in. So they had to make sure they had the right shot clock time as well while they were reviewing that.
So Indiana with a 10-point lead here. 6 minutes until halftime as Boston finds some space and knocks it down. Now Sims launches ahead for Mitchell. What a pass by Odyssey Sims.
Indiana seemed in full control midway through the second quarter, building a 13-point lead at 40-27. At that moment, it looked like the Fever were cruising. But momentum shifted in an instant. Washington erupted with a 22-7 run that erased the lead and drained the energy from the arena. The Mystics found their rhythm, shooting 52% from the field and hitting clutch threes, while Indiana's offense suddenly stalled. What should have been a comfortable cushion quickly turned into a tense one-possession game, and the Fever never fully recovered.
For the Buckeyes.
Here is the Buckeye product on a backdoor pass, but Mitchell lost the handle. Sutton thought about the three, steps in, Hull got a piece. Dolson has been wide open all possession, splashes home a three, and we are level at 47.
That momentum shift didn't come from a superstar takeover, it came from the Fever losing control. Costly turnovers began to mount, and defensive lapses became routine. Indiana racked up 21 fouls, gifting Washington 26 free throw attempts. Each careless pass or missed rotation turned into another trip to the line, and the lead slipped away possession by possession. This wasn't about bad officiating. The scoreboard was a reflection of Indiana's own avoidable mistakes.
Sims with 5 off the bench. Indiana has 8 first-quarter bench points. That's typically been a strength when they're playing well, as Iriafen just bullies her way inside. Now Citron being guarded by Lexi Hull. Hull goes over the screen, defends her really well. Citron just has to fire it up, and a circus shot for Citron.
Adding to the frustration, it was Washington's all-star rookies who delivered the biggest blows. Sonia Citron played with poise beyond her years, dropping 21 points, while Kiki Iriafen powered her way to 18 points and 12 rebounds, several of them crucial second-chance boards that shifted the game's momentum. Their impact wasn't just statistical, it was a statement. When Indiana stopped dictating the pace, even a young, still developing team like Washington had enough grit to seize control. With the Fever clinging to 7th place and every game a must-win, letting a rookie duo dismantle your lead is as costly as it gets.
It's up to the chat! Get excited! What's in the chat? A little bit more. Why at the same time? Because I'm you and you're me. We switch bodies. Subs in the chat!
Not as if Indiana lacked standout performances. Aliyah Boston was a force in the paint, finishing with 20 points and 9 rebounds, the kind of steady production that should anchor a win. Kelsey Mitchell facilitated effectively in the first half. Sophie Cunningham brought energy, and Lexi Hull made her mark defensively. The core players competed and never let up, which only makes the loss sting more. This collapse wasn't about effort, it was about the absence of direction. And without it, all that hard work amounted to...
Gets it into Boston. Hand off Mitchell. Indiana has to hurry. Lob back for Boston. Boston finishes. It's a 2-point game. 5.9 seconds remaining.
Reality is straightforward. Indiana didn't lose because Washington was the better team. They lost because they gave the game away. They squandered possessions, let the Mystics control the tempo, and had no response once momentum shifted. It's a familiar pattern that has haunted the Fever all season. Promising stretches undone by preventable breakdowns. Every time this team takes a step forward, unforced errors and missed adjustments pull them right back. And unlike earlier in the year, these late-game collapses carry real weight with the playoff race tightening. There's no more room for slip-up.
Cunningham looking, finds Mitchell, launches a corner three. It won't go. Rebound Aiksler. And this young Washington Mystics group who continues to impress throughout this season. And Sidney Johnson in his first year comes up with a big win on the road.
Brings us to the pressing question, where was the plan to protect the lead once it started slipping? When the entire building could feel the momentum shift, who was responsible for steadying the team, for making the right rotations, calling the right plays, or delivering a reliable counterpunch? The answers all point in one direction, and it's the same place fans are now directing their frustration.
Yeah, I think we over-dribbled at times. Our off-ball movement wasn't there. We did a lot of standing. It's almost like we gave the ball to Kelsey and just tried to watch her work. And that's not when we're at our best. I mean, yes, certainly we want to have the ball in our hands, but we've got to continue to get movement with and without the basketball. It was getting stuck. I mean, we want to play 0.5 to 1 second basketball, and we weren't. And it's got to get moving.
Stephanie White's coaching decisions are under the spotlight after this loss, and none more so than the puzzling absence of Chloe Bibby. Bibby, shooting 42% from three this season, didn't log a single minute in a game where Indiana's spacing collapsed and perimeter shooting dried up. When asked, White cited defensive matchup concerns, specifically rebounding and coverage issues she believed would be exposed against Washington's lineups. But when you pair that reasoning with how the game actually unfolded, Indiana surrendering 26 free throws, giving up wide-open threes, and allowing Kiki Iriafen to dominate the paint, the explanation does little to calm frustration. Fans saw a reliable floor spacer glued to the bench, while the very defensive problems Bibby was benched for unfolded anyway. And they're left asking the obvious, why was a potential solution never given a chance?
With Chloe Bibby tonight, were there thoughts maybe plugging her in to try and spark the offense a little bit, or what was the decision behind not playing her tonight?
Yeah, there were some thoughts. I think that it matched up defensively more than anything with the way that we were going to try to play them, or in some of our switches and things like that. So that was mostly the reason.
And then just with the rotation, was it just those eight or seven that you ran with? Was it just they were flowing well and you wanted to just leave that going, or what was the thought there?
Yeah, I think some of it was defense. Being able to execute the type of defensive coverages that we wanted to have against this, the way that they play.
After the game, Stephanie White acknowledged that Indiana's offense was getting stuck, admitting that too many possessions ended with simply handing the ball to Kelsey Mitchell and hoping she could create against multiple defenders. That phrase, "it was getting stuck," has quickly become the rallying cry of the night because it perfectly captured what fans witnessed in real time. When an offense breaks down into predictable isolation, the logical adjustment is to space the floor with shooters like Bibby. Instead, the Fever doubled down on Mitchell, leaving her to shoulder the load without adequate support. The result, a system straining under its own weight and a winnable game slipping away.
It hurts. I mean, I think we had 8 turnovers for 13 points in the second half as well. So we didn't take care of it.
The numbers tell the story. Kelsey Mitchell finished 6-for-9 from the field, scoring 14 points and dishing out 9 assists. She created opportunities and delivered under pressure, but was asked to carry too heavy a load as both scorer and primary playmaker in the closing minutes. Several possessions ended with Mitchell driving into crowded lanes, forced into contested shots, while her teammates remained unguarded on the perimeter. This isn't a critique of her decision-making. She battled through tough situations, but it's hard to ignore how predictable the offense became once Washington began packing the paint to start.
And I think it was something like a 22-7 run, the end of the second, beginning of the third quarter. And those are hard to recover from anytime really, but when you're missing pieces. And, we've got to make sure that we're sharper at times. We don't have the margin to have lulls within quarters. And then I believe they had something like 21 points from free throw line and turnovers of their 26 in the fourth. And, we control that, defending without fouling. We control that, taking care of the basketball, decision making at times. And some of it's, playing some people out of position, and some of it's just not being, valuing the basketball in the way that we need to value it, being a little sloppy with it.
What gnaws at fans isn't just the loss itself, but the feeling that the Fever undercut their own strengths. This roster boasts solid shooting, veteran grit, and a dominant presence in Aliyah Boston, yet the rotations and play calling ended up clogging rather than unleashing those weapons. Washington didn't win by delivering superstar knockout blows. They capitalized on Indiana's predictability and the selective, often puzzling use of personnel. That's why the criticism lands not on effort, but on strategy. The players poured every ounce of energy into the contest, fighting to keep the game within reach. Meanwhile, coaching decisions are now being seen as a drag on momentum, especially as playoff positioning tightens and every misstep is magnified. And that contrast is impossible to ignore. While rotation sparked questions, the players themselves refuse to let the night slip away without a fight.
On their ball screen coverages right now.
Here's Mitchell on the handoff, bounce pass. Boston one bounce and a left-handed finish. Here's Boston, the offensive rebound, flips inside to Howard, who lays it in.
You go step up screen, flare on the weak side. They had to make sure they had the right shot clock time as well while they're reviewing that.
So Indiana with a 10-point lead here, 6 minutes until halftime as Boston finds some space and knocks it down.
Beat 12. What gnaws at fans isn't just the loss itself, but the feeling that the Fever undercut their own strengths. This roster boasts solid shooting, veteran grit, and a dominant presence in Aliyah Boston, yet the rotations and play calling ended up clogging rather than unleashing those weapons. Washington didn't win by delivering superstar knockout blows. They capitalized on Indiana's predictability and the selective, often puzzling use of personnel. That's why the criticism lands not on effort, but on strategy. The players poured every ounce of energy into the contest, fighting to keep the game within reach. Meanwhile, coaching decisions are now being seen as a drag on momentum, especially as playoff positioning tightens and every misstep is magnified. And that contrast is impossible to ignore. While rotations spark questions, the players themselves refuse to let the night slip away without.
Indiana with their work cut out for them here. 6-point deficit, just over 5 minutes left to play. Mitchell, feed inside. There's an easy two for Boston. Cunningham leans in, thought she'd throw the foul. Boston pulls down the rebound and lays it in.
The context matters. This isn't a team just patching holes, it's playing without its backcourt foundation. Caitlin Clark remained sidelined, and both Sydney Coulson and Ari McDonald suffered season-ending injuries in the same week. Indiana was left scrambling for reliable ball handlers, forcing the front office to sign players like Sims and Lambert just to stabilize the rotation given a roster suddenly stripped of its primary initiators. The fact that the Fever stayed in control as long as they did speaks volumes about the grit of the players on the floor. Boston took on even more responsibility inside, Mitchell's workload doubled, and Cunningham stepped up as a facilitator while still handling the toughest defensive assignments.
Pulleys her way inside.
What a pass by Melvin, too. Really nice.
Mitchell turns on the Jets and gets to the rim.
No one can keep Kemper as one of the best rebounders out of her area, which means the ball not directly above her head as Cunningham with a steal.
Cunningham feeds Sims, who goes coast to coast and lays it in. So 4 quick ones for Indiana.